Broadcasting from an undisclosed location under a farm pond somewhere in the Midwest. Your host is Jim Crowley. This is Slickfish Radio. Welcome to Slickfish Radio. This is going to be great. I've got my longtime friend Chauncey from Chaunceys Great Outdoors. He is waiting in the wings. We had some technical difficulties, and all of a sudden, boom, it worked. Thank you, God, for that. I'm glad you're all tuning in tonight. Just got back from ICAST. Crazy. We'll talk a little bit about that after we talk with Chauncey. I'm also going to be doing a very cool giveaway tonight on a brand new product that Lure Parts Online is just released. It's out now. It's called a Hitchhiker. I'm going to show you a little video about what it does underwater. This is an awesome new bladed jig trailer. So we're going to talk about that. All kinds of fun stuff to do tonight. But first of all, I want to thank our sponsors, and that is Shields in Springfield, Illinois. We love them. Always great store. Always more knowledgeable employees than just about anywhere. Also, our friends at Lure Parts Online. As I said, we're going to be doing a giveaway tonight. With the new Hitchhiker, going to be giving a pack or two of those away tonight. Got people clicking and chiming in already. Hey, Chris McVeigh. Chris, how are you, man? Good to have you here. Tony Ariola's on. Good, Tony. Hi, how are you? Ted Koski joining us. Ted, nice to have you tonight. This is great, guys. So glad that you guys are joining us tonight. So, again, want to thank Shields. Want to thank Lure Parts Online, our friends over at Cast King. Hey, Cast King won best in their product for their new Brutus net. So I'm going to give you a discount code at the end of the show, and you're going to be able to get 20% off that new net. It's awesome. It won best in their product line for ICAST. Just everybody at Cast King was really excited. Our friends over at Mudhole. Hey, my signature series rod kits are doing great. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. We're selling a good number of them, and got a new episode coming up on my show, Jim Crowley Outdoors on Wired to Fish TV, where I'm going to be showcasing two of those. It was a great trip to Minnesota. We're catching fish on bladed jig as well as on wacky worm. So you see that too. Also, our friends at Dakota Lithium. That's how we are powered. And so glad to have them on board. Lots of fun stuff to talk about. But of course, I want to bring in my buddy. I am so glad he joined us. There he is, Chauncey from Chaunceys Great Outdoors. We always start the show by saying, we come live from somewhere under a farm pond, somewhere in the Midwest. This is our secluded area. I'm glad you could join us. I'm glad you could find us. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing okay. I'm doing all right. I almost missed the show because I had to catch a couple of bass at my favorite pond, and it's like, one more cast, one more cast, one more fish, and oh my God, Crowley's going to be calling me when I'm running into my house. And what happened? Crowley called me when I was running into the house.
That's right. I was trying to think how long we've been friends, and one of the reasons I wanted to get you on is because I don't think anybody's ever had a longer running show in the Chicagoland area in the Midwest than you have. And if I'm not mistaken, I think you started this entire network. Was it like back in 1989?
I actually started my whole outdoor shtick, as how you're going to put it, it was actually in the early 90s. And, I was writing for a couple newspapers. I had a fishing information line called 976 Hook. I then had wrote fishing reports for the Chicago Tribune. And then we did a CLTV for 7 years.
I remember that.
And when that was, and to this day, people come up to me when I'm in public venue, and they go, "You know what I miss?" And I go, "What?" But I know what they're going to say. They always say, "I miss you on CLTV." Because what people don't realize, that show, it was like a CNN news program, but on Thursday nights, it was a sports page. And it was a 1-hour show, and there was no net, there was no delete, there was no panic button. We used to call it Chauncey Sweats for an hour. And when somebody said, "Hey, Jim Crowley, where are they biting on Lake Wickamawaka?"
Yeah.
And you just can't go, you have so much information on your fingertips that it's worse than going for the bar exam. I swear to God.
The funny thing is that now the more that I've done this podcast, and I think we're actually going on our third season for Wired to Fish TV pretty soon. I've been doing different versions of it, but how we settled on Slickfish Radio a couple years ago. It was interesting that you said that because I've been in television, you have too, and that in most cases, unless it's live, you can edit that. So if you make mistakes, there are ways you can correct that. And then when you go do a radio show or you do a podcast or like you did on CLTV, it's live without a net. That is usually what I'll tell people is, yeah, what can go wrong? It's live. Everything can go wrong. It's more of a miracle that sometimes that the whole show actually comes together in one thing without anything. I've had power outages where I've had to upgrade my whole system here, hopefully in case we get a power outage or a storm that won't affect it. But we've had the screen just go blank. We've had guests not be able to come because of one thing or the other. Justin Lucas was on the show one time, and he actually thought his wife was going to be leaving for the hospital to have their baby. You don't know what's going to happen. It kind of leads to the excitement. I love the part about the audience being able to chime in like they are now. And a lot of people will watch this later on Roku, Fire TV, on Wired to Fish TV, and all that. But the live thing is always fun when people join in because they are seeing something totally unscripted. And I know you're like me. We don't script anything. We
Oh,
just are talking. If you looked at all the interviews you and I did over the years, how many people have come up to us at venues and said, you guys are always so fun to listen to. I can promise you all wholeheartedly, Chauncey and I have never scripted anything. It's just two guys talking about a passion they have for the outdoors. Would you agree with that, my friend?
I would, and I tell people, I go, even when I'm going to interview. Well, I don't say it to you, but when I'm going to interview somebody that's never been on my show, I would say, listen, it's you and I sitting at the end of the bar having a soda pop, wink, wink, and
Yeah.
there's a table of people sitting about 4 feet away to our right, listening to every word that we're saying. I said, so it's
Right.
not an interview. This is a conversation. And I think when you have a conversation with somebody on the air, you have a better appreciation. It's not, well, yeah, and it drives me crazy when I see all of these shows interviewing the pro anglers. It's almost like cookie cutter. Well, what kind of lure were you using, or what line dimensions, and what was this, and what, and that's
Right.
not it. Let's have fun with this and talk about. Hey, what were you pitching out there? I was pitching a frog. Oh, that's pretty cool. Now it's not that boom, 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 boom. It's interesting. It's fun.
Well, yeah, and I agree with that. I'm just thinking about how many times you probably interviewed. You've known Kevin Van Dam for years, and that was the first name that came to mind. How many times he's been asked some of the same questions? I mean, if you were scripted on some of that, how would you have got some of the emotions or some of the reactions that you would have? And I think that's always best, just coming up. I'm never going to give somebody, and I know you won't either. That's an unguarded question that you want to catch them off guard. But
No,
you right. It's just not what we do. But you want to ask them a question that hopefully the more they're interested in that question, the more that they know it's not a scripted thing, hopefully the more entertaining and informative they'll be with their answer. And I bet you've had some awesome ones like that over the year where you just asked a question and you went, I didn't know it was going to go there, but it led to really good radio, didn't it?
yeah, and good television, because what you do is, and professional athletes are perfect for this. Okay, what do these people talk to a pro athlete about? They talk to them about, oh, what was your earn run average, or why did you miss that pass to so and so on the 30-yard line? And you just say, what did you like to do when you were a kid when you went out fishing? And
Yeah.
actually, you sit back for 12 minutes because shut up,
Yeah.
because they're not asked those questions. They're not asked the questions that they want to talk about.
Yeah, I really, when I have somebody on the show, I just really want to have a conversation with them, and after ICAST, we got back from ICAST, I've got 4 or 5 guests that, I talked to about coming on the show, that there's going to be some more great guests coming on in the future. And I just reassured them. I'm like, listen, we're just going to talk fishing. They're like, and I had one gentleman ask me, what do you want to talk about? I go, I don't know. We'll figure it out when we get there. We're going to talk fishing. That's all
Mm.
I do on my social media. I talk about 2 things. I talk about God and I talk about fishing. That's what we're going to talk about on this show. That's what I do most of the time. If somebody's really interested in what we're talking about, I'm going to talk about the 2 things that I have,
Yeah.
that I have passion with. And I think it's a lot more fun that way. I don't like looking down the thing going, oh, by the way, I think I wanted to do this. I wanted to talk about that. I don't think that's a good experience for the audience. I know And I think I'm going to ask you this question because when you've had one of the longest running shows over 20 years, I
20,
think you've covered.
26 years.
Oh my gosh, I
Most
know.
people aren't married that long.
I know it. I know it. You've covered things from the Bassmasters Classic all the way up, I think if I'm not mistaken, to ESPN's Great Outdoor Games
Yeah.
and certain things. And if you didn't have original content for that, I honestly don't think people would have been tuning in for 26 years. You always put your spin on it, and that's what people want to hear from you is they want to hear because it's entertaining. That's what we do. We're I think we have two jobs. I think we inform and we entertain. Do you agree with that?
You just said the most important thing that you probably don't realize. You and I are not out there to teach someone how to pitch a crankbait, how to, yes, I know you make a rod, you do this. We are on the entertainment side of this industry,
Mhm.
except that we have to have a lot of knowledge about what we're talking about,
Y-
and
Yeah.
we have to make it entertaining. There is nothing more gracious than somebody, and I'm sure they've said it to you, they'll say, "Hey, I listen to your show every week." Well, thank you. I don't fish. I don't hunt. I don't do this. I don't do that. And I go, well, thank you.
Yep.
But I find you entertaining.
Yeah. Y-
That's
you nailed it. I've had wives come up to me, at a seminar, like at the All Canada Show or whatever, and go, "I don't even fish, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. I found that entertaining, ma'am. Thank you. I just did my job.
yeah, that's it.
I just did my job. I always take it back to what to the best businessmen in rock and roll, and I'm a rock and roll history buff anyway. Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley at Kiss, when they were asked, how did you come up and why did you come up with the idea for Kiss? Both of them, awesome business partners for 50 years. They said, when we first started this, we wanted to give the fans something in a rock and roll concert that we were not getting ourselves. We wanted the fans to get everything that we thought a show should be. And when I give a seminar, or when I do a show, and I'm sure you do the same way, I want to give something that has some value. If it just makes them smile, if it just makes them laugh, if they find out something new, that's exactly. Then I think I've done my job. And you've been doing that for years. You and I have had conversations live at the station. We've had it all over. When we do, I agree with the owner. It's we're sitting there having a conversation
Yeah.
and we're just lucky enough that people still want to tune in and listen to us have those conversations because I think they realize that we really enjoy doing what we're doing. We enjoy talking to the public, and I think that's why we've been around so long. What do you think?
I'm not going to disagree with you, my friend.
The foundation of what I would say professional angling as we know it, the Linders,
Hmm.
Spence Petros. If you go back muskie fishing, you could say Jimmy Sarek. If you go to walleye fishing, you could say Ted Takasaki. Midwest Outdoors, you could say Larry Ladowski. You could say there's a whole bunch of stuff. Where are those people? Where did those people come from? They came from the Chicagoland area.
Yeah, they
You
came
know,
from an
yeah,
urban environment. I mean, I grew up as a kid. I am doing what I wanted to do when I was 5 years old,
yeah.
and people go, "Well," I go, "I'm doing today what I wanted to do when I was 5 years old." When I was 5 years old, I used to watch the American Sportsman magazine. Did you learn something? Yeah, maybe a little, but it was entertaining. It
Right.
was fun. They brought you along on an adventure, and you felt like you were being brought along to do these things. And that's the cool part where people, started getting in it. So, I mean, I went to school and worked in finance for a while. And then, lightning struck me, and I said, you know, I'm going to try my outdoor roots. And it took off, and I never looked back. Just be good to people. Be nice to people. Don't look back. Catch some fish. Show kids, adults. Take some people that are 70 plus years old. Now let's make it older. 80 plus years, 80 plus years old who maybe haven't gone fishing in 10 or 15 years and put them on the bank. Sit with them. Let them talk. It's an experience you will never forget, but you will also be able to touch someone's soul.
Oh, there's yeah, that's exactly right. Just this past week at ICAST, one of the I was talking to Mark Davis, I think, about it from Big Water Adventures, and I've known Mark for a long, long time, and it was interesting just to talk about the adventures he's been on, the places he's been on, and people tune in to his show and have, and that's why he's won so many Golden Moose Awards. I think on is because it's an entertaining value. He fishes all over the world.
Hmm.
And does somebody in Chicago maybe learn something how to go catch Goliath grouper, for example? Maybe not, but you know what? They find him very entertaining and he's very informative at what he does. People watch those type of shows for in entertainment value. And I can remember when when you and I first met. I think it was early. I think it was early '90s. I think this is gonna throw some of the people back watching the show now live, and also that see it on channels later on. Is that the second Bass Pro Shops ever built? If I'm not mistaken, my friend, was built in Gurnee, Illinois,
Yeah,
and you and I were there for the opening that that store, and if I think that's exactly how we met.
it is.
Yeah, and I'm also going to tell you guys a couple other I'm going to tell one more story because how many years ago do y'all remember that commercial Bass Pro Shops had when Kevin Van Dam was up on the tank and they were catching fish and they were yelling at him and he had to go? Him and Bill Dance were doing. Okay, the true story, that Kevin Van Dam, that was not the first person that happened to. Chauncey and I were at that show, and back then they would put a keg out in the area for all the people that were working the show at the end. And if I'm not mistaken, I think we might have had one, possibly two. Well, for some reason, I remember grabbing my rod back there and went back into the building and started fishing in the tank. And there was a janitor cleaning up next to the tank and cleaning everything up. And I had hooked one of the stripers in the tank and hit the lure that I was throwing. Because back then, even during the show, they didn't care if you hooked a fish. Now you can't do that.
Yeah.
Well, I hooked that fish. The fish jumped and threw water all over the area on the floor where that guy was cleaning up with the mop. And I remember the manager at the store tapped me on the shoulder from behind and he goes, "Jim, what are you doing?" And so I'm sitting there, turned around looking at him with the rod pulling back, going, "Nothing." And the fish is doing it. He goes, "Why don't you all get back out to the party out there on the patio?" So I had to unhook the fish and reel back and look. And every time I saw that commercial, reminds me of the time that you and I sat on that patio and talked to whoever else we talked to that
Hmm.
night. But those are just great memories, and it all started way back then.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It started with, and I got to tell your listeners this. The one thing I said to Jim, and he hasn't said it yet. I said one statement to him after I met him, sat around, talked to him, and he stood on one pillar and was casting, and I was standing on the other pillar, and at the Gurney store, and I said, Jim, you get it.
I remember that. I actually remember
Yeah,
that.
you get it,
I remember
which
that.
covers a whole spectrum of people who are listening to you right now, going, "What do you mean?" No, Jim gets it. I get it, and those are the people I want to be around. Yes, we all have an ego that every human being has an ego. But
Right,
you know what? That's not the most important thing. He gets it because let's do something for somebody else.
right. I've been clicking on the people here that have been coming on, but Chauncey, can you see who just came on?
Yes, I know, my sweetheart.
Yeah, she loves your brother. So
Mm.
she's upstairs there, and so she goes, "Oh, Chauncey's on tonight, right?" I said, "Yeah, she is." So thank you, sweetheart, for watching. I sure appreciate it.
Yeah. She
Um,
didn't throw me out when she first met me, so it was a good day.
no, 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 she did, buddy. I got news for you. You stand a pretty good chance because you hadn't thrown me out already. You're in good shape.
I'm in good shape.
You'll just be fine. We've done things over the years like goose hunts together. Actually, found an old picture on your website today of that one Lives Hunt for a Cure that we did way back when, where
Hmm.
we whacked those geese in a bean field,
Yeah.
and that was a lot. That was a lot of fun. I want to take a little bit of a break, and then I want to come back. And I know a little bit about the story about how you got started in the outdoors, but I want to talk a little bit about that because I think it's a pretty cool story. So everybody knows what's going on. Chauncey, you don't know yet, but we're going to do like Chuck Woolery used to do back in the day. We're going to be back in two, and we'll talk with Chauncey some more and find some cool stuff. Thank you all for being here. Don't go away. We'll be back just in a little bit. Located in Springfield, Illinois' largest selection of sports and sportswear, hunting, fishing, specialty shops and services, a 65-foot Ferris wheel, 16,000-gallon saltwater aquarium, and industry-leading knowledgeable employees. You don't take chances at Shields, ever. At Lure Parts Online, we have everything you need to make your own lures, tie your own flies, pour soft plastics, and more. Easy ordering ensures you get your products quickly. You can build all you need to create your own angling success at Lure Parts Online. Cast King, fueled by innovation through novel concepts and ingenious designs, markets directly to consumers with unprecedented cost-effective e-commerce practices, cutting costs by 30% more on average. Cast King empowers anglers of all skill levels to achieve things never thought possible. Find out more at castking.com. Mudhole is your number one source for custom fishing rods. Mudhole is the world's largest supplier of rod building supplies, information, education, and instruction. The best components and brands you trust, including MHX, CRB, American Tackle, Pro Products, Fuji, AFCO, and more. It's easy to build your own fishing rods at mudhole.com. Believing quality is measured by lifespan, harnessing their unique chemistry, engineering, and know-how. Dakota Lithium lasts 4 times longer, powering your passions and backing it up with an 11-year warranty. Find out more at dakotalithium.com. There we go. Come here. Get in here. Yeah, nice fish right there. Hi, I'm Jim Crowley. Make sure you catch my show, Jim Crowley Outdoors, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, exclusively on Wired to Fish TV. Look for Jim Crowley Outdoors on Wired to Fish TV on free ad-supported streaming TV, including Plex, that can be downloaded in the App Store at Apple TV, Roku, Samsung, and others.
God, I wonder who's listening to me out there. And I went, why did I say that? 20 seconds later, I got another one in Rome, Venice, Frankfurt, Belgium,
That's
Paris,
crazy.
a suburb south of Paris, a guy in London, 2 suburbs of London, and the final guy was in Scotland.
Wow.
I wrote back to him. I said, "Sir, I am honored. I am so honored that
No
you are
kidding.
listening to me. But if I was in Scotland, I wouldn't be listening to me." I said, "No, I wouldn't be doing this." And he was like, "I miss a Midwest voice." And I went, "Oh,
Oh.
got a little verklempt."
Yeah.
A little, you know, just
Oh, that's funny. You're like, oh man, now I'm all choked up, man. I'm all choked up.
Mhm. Exactly.
Oh, that's funny. So I think I know the story, but I did want to talk to you how because I'm sure you've been asked this before, and I've been asked it a bunch of times too. But how did you get your start? When did you first? Who was the person who introduced you to the outdoors?
My mother.
Yeah,
My
tell them
mother.
about that.
My mother, gee, I can't even tell you how. I mean, I can go back as little can be. And some of these things I don't remember, so I have to take them as her gospel. And she said they would go smelt fishing on the lakefront when I was a little kid. And me and my brother, we'd have sleeping bags, they'd have the Coleman stove, we'd have dinner out there and all that stuff like that. But when they went put me to bed, they'd have to, she says, we strip search you. I go, what do
What?
you mean? She says, you would put smelt in your boots, in your pockets, you would put them under the pillow. And she said, why are you doing this? My mom says, I looked her right in the eye and said, I want to teep with the fishes, mom.
Well, see, I come from an Italian family. That takes on a whole different type of thing.
I know it does.
It takes on a whole different type of thing, man.
She taught me, fishing. She taught me mushroom picking, how to make my own booze. She taught me how to cook. She taught me the love of camping. And then, I hit about 11 years old. I mean, I was in Cub Scouts and stuff.
Yeah.
But when I hit 11 years old, it was more males and adult leaders. And it was like, oh, this is really cool, but where's all the men? They're not, but I mean, and it took off from there. And, up until, Alzheimer's and dementia, got a hold of her, I could call her at 3 in the morning and say, you want to go perch fishing? And her answer would be, well, if you get here a half hour early, I'll have breakfast for you. I go,
Look,
I'm there, mom,
yeah,
and that's what I did.
that is awesome. What do you remember? Where was there a certain fish that you gravitated? Because I know you were in Boy Scouts. So you spent a lot of time up in camps in Michigan, didn't
Yeah,
you?
place called Owasabi.
Yeah, Waspy. Talk a little bit about that because I've heard you say that on numerous occasions, and I know that holds a special place in your heart. But it also, I'm sure, it also has a lot to do with your love of the outdoors because there was a lot going on there too, wasn't it?
There was. I mean, I started going there in 1966.
Jeez, holy crap!
Haven't been for a year, but I was going up there. I I went from not being happy in the city to going to camp and fell in love with it, and uh, I had it just nature heals.
It
That's what
does.
it is.
It does.
Nature heals,
It
and
does.
I was about 15 years old, and my father, an Eastern European family, they all drank like fishes, and my father was an alcoholic, and
Yeah.
he wound up, uh, you know, he was drunk one of the many thousands and millions of times, and my mom came in and said, "Where's Dad?" And I said, "He's up front." Well, when we went looking for him, we couldn't find him. He went down in the basement and he tried to hang himself,
Mm,
and I was not in a good frame of mind. I threw him up 17 stairs in one shot. I guess the adrenaline was pumping, and
sure.
so and a couple weeks later, I was supposed to go to camp, and I didn't want to go to camp. I did. I was not in the right frame of mind. My brain was like, I was a messed up 15-year-old kid,
Hmm.
complete. Scout leaders yelling at me, "You got to come to camp." Ah, no, I ain't going to camp for screw that. I'm not going to camp. And then finally, okay, day come, you're going. All right. So I get in the car. I got out of the car in camp. And honest to God, my feet touched the sandy soil. And it was as if I'm going to see if I can do it with my hands. See this motion?
Hmm.
I felt something crawl up my body from my feet to the top of my head. At that point, I was calm as a cold cucumber. I had no anger. I had no frustration. Nothing. Nature heals.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's that's incredible to hear. It's because there's a similarity there. When I never liked school, hated school. Just and I was an only kid, and my dad would take me out of school once in a while, once or twice a year, to go fishing with him and his buddies, and we would go to Spider Lake in Wisconsin, right
Mhm.
outside of Minocqua, Little Spider Lake. And that was the only way that I think I kept my grades up for most of the time because he would tell me if your grades aren't up, then you're not going with me. And there was a time when my grades were not up, and I remember him walking out the door going, I didn't do this to you, Jimmy, you did. And what hurt me so bad about that because I knew it was my fault. But whenever I would get there, whenever I would get to that lake and we would stay at that place,
Mhm.
it's the same feeling would happen to me. I didn't worry about school. I didn't worry about the neighborhood. I didn't worry about anything. As soon as I put my foot out of that car on those pine needles in that sand to
Mhm.
that and saw that old screen door of that cabin, everything was better.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. And the thing is that, nature can do this. Get your kids out.
Yes.
Get the
Yes.
kids out. Let them, yes, it's okay to go your sports and stuff like that if you want to do that. But let them be kids. Let them go chase frogs. Let them get,
Yes.
find them a snake or it's the gee whiz factor. And when they find something, yes, let them have a phone. Okay.
Yeah.
But when they say, "What's this?" Say, "Well, why don't we look it up on your phone?"
Yeah.
So now they know how to look something up. And
Right.
this is where the kids, I mean, it just, you sit back and go, "Yep, it's the gee whiz factor." Gee whiz.
Yeah. Just about any age, somebody can catch a fish. just about any age, somebody can go fishing or being taken somewhere to fish. It's an amazing amazing thing. It made my life better than I think it possibly would have. Chris McVeigh just, it's got, yeah, always more rewarding to figure things out for yourself. You're right.
Yeah, Chris, it is.
It is. Yeah, that's
You
me.
said that a kid is able to do some stuff, and Illinois was the first state to have high school bass fishing, and I
Right.
was part of the group that took the people around from the IHSA and said, "We got a lot of stuff up here in northern Illinois." They thought we were
Yeah.
parking lots and streetlights, and they went, "Man, you got a lot of lakes." I went, "Oh, yeah."
Yeah.
And then, but what happens is you've got, you know, it's not the 6'4" kid playing basketball. It's not the tall, lanky kid, the pitcher that can whip it at 90 miles an hour. It's not the football player that's coming in on the line at 3:15. It's the 87-pound girl on the bow of a boat
Mhm.
casting a spinner bait or a frog and winning a tournament that will send her to college.
That's awesome.
Oh,
I know.
yeah, this is what the outdoors can bring to people to do, especially. And then I asked my this is a great line from Mike Iaconelli, who
Mhm.
I love and hate, okay? I love and hate Mike. I mean, it's just but I asked him one time, I said, "Mike, who are you looking over your shoulder for when in the tournament? Is it Kevin? Is it Ike? Is it, Ish Monroe? Is it Skeet Reese?" And he said, "Nope." I go, "Well, who is it?" He says, "It's the kid coming out of college
Yeah.
because those kids have got the marketing knowledge, the
Mhm.
fishing knowledge, the science of the fish knowledge, which is important to me." And he says they're 10 years ahead of me when I started being a pro. And
No, no doubt.
I look over my shoulder for. And I went, "Whoa, I didn't expect that answer."
Yeah, I had, a couple weeks ago, I had Crispin Polly from GSM Outdoors on the show, just absolutely great gentleman, and we were talking about, two of the hottest kids out there right now are Drew Gill, who is from Illinois, and Trey McKinney, also from, Illinois,
Mhm.
and I think it's interesting that these kids are, 19 to 22 and figuring out things not only with electronics but fish location, everything. They're exceptional anglers. They're
Mhm.
exceptional anglers. At
Yeah.
19 and 22, what I told him a couple weeks ago on the show, I go, you know what I was doing at 19 and 22? One, I can't remember, but two, I'm betting I was probably still trying to stay within the lines with my crayons for the coloring book I still
Mhm.
had. It's amazing what these kids can do nowadays, and it's wonderful.
I know some girls that were absolutely unbelievable for fishermen in high school and even got scholarships. And you know what? Even if they don't be this is a great part. This one girl I know, she went to school on a fishing scholarship and did it all. But what did she become? A fireman EMT.
That's awesome.
That's great.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
great. I says, you're doing something for the community and you did it through fishing. Where was this when you and I were punks?
No
You're a
kidding. I mean, my grade point average looked like vitamin deficiencies. If you were to put them
punk.
on a card, you'd it but if I think if I would have had fishing to keep my focus more so
Mhm.
like some of these kids had, you would have strived for something. So it's a wonderful thing how this has grown into where kids can get scholarships out of it. And a lot of the companies right now, they're recruiting just like professional sport teams do right out of high school and college.
Yeah.
They're looking for these kids. They're looking for these kids
Mhm.
who are articulate, who have a good character, who
Yeah.
present themselves well in public. And I saw a bunch of them in ICAST last week. It's
Mhm.
an exciting time, and I think it's absolutely wonderful because we didn't have that 30 years ago, but we have it now.
Yeah, and when I was in high school, I went to a strange high school, which I'm not going to waste a whole lot of time explaining. But let's just say it was different.
Yeah.
I took 3.5 years of marine biology at the Shed Aquarium
Wow,
with
that's cool.
with the
Yeah.
guy who went to work for some guy in France named Jacques Cousteau.
Oh, yeah.
And when he went around the table asking why are you taking this marine biology class, and some people, I want to work with dolphins, I want to save the whales, I want to do this. And he gets to me, and I pointed to Lake Michigan. I said, I want to know why the fish out there are doing what they're doing, why they're doing it, so I can catch them.
Yeah.
And he looked at me and he goes, that may be the most honest answer I've ever been given. But that's the science of fishing. That's why I tell people, you can read all the magazines you want about fishing, and they're great. But learn the science of the critter you're chasing, whether it's a duck, a goose, a deer, a fish, a turtle. Learn the science of that fish, and you will be a better sportsman at the end.
At its very core, it's predator prey relationship.
Hmm.
And the more you learn about what you're after, one, the more successful you're going to be. And two, we're in charge of that.
Yeah.
It's up to us. It's up to us to take care of and preserve that resource. I couldn't agree more. Hey, before we let you go, my dear friend, where tell people if they've been living under a rock, tell them where they can find out more about your show because everybody should start. If you're not out on the water, you should be starting your Saturday mornings with a cup of coffee and listening to Chauncey. So let them know exactly where they can find everything out that they need to.
Okay. You can find me on the ESPN AM 1000 in Chicago. That's AM 1000. It's a clear channel station, so depending on the atmospheric bounce, you can hear it everywhere east of the Mississippi, from Canada to about Orlando. But with the atmospheric bounce, who knows? You can find it on you can go on the ESPN Chicago app is another way to listen. You just put push the button on the nose of the guy much younger looking than me. Okay, and you'll hear it. Or you can go to chauncey'sgreatoutdoors.com and click on the word podcast, and all my shows are there, and the show that just played is there. And a lot of people listen to it, as a podcast also because they're either doing stuff or they're wanting to sleep till 9 o'clock or whatever. But I mean, it's all these different things that are out there for you to find. I'm on Facebook, Chaunceys Great Outdoors. We post a lot of stuff there, just like Jim does. We do tons of stuff in the community, tons of stuff all over the United States. As a matter of fact, even the guy who works on my car, the mechanic, said, "Man, you drive a lot." I go, "Yeah, it hurts when I sit." But God,
I was going to say, is when is your live? That's coming up in a week or two, isn't it?
I have
Or
a live show that's coming up the first Saturday, August 3rd. That's not this weekend, next weekend.
yeah,
In Westchester, Illinois, 31st and Wolf Road. We have lots of giveaways. We have great guests. It's a hoot and a holler, and there's lots of coffee, lots of pastries, all kinds of food there to
it's so
enjoy.
good. It's
And
so Paul's is awesome.
you never know. It's like a Damon Runyon movie. You never know what's going to happen.
It doesn't. I've been to. If you don't mind, I think I will show up at that one. It's been a
You're more
couple
than
years.
welcome. More than welcome.
I look for it. I love seeing your crowd there. It's fun. We always have a great time. So I will put that on the
Mhm.
calendar. And I might even be able to bring up. I'm looking around here for the giveaways. I might even be able to bring up some stuff that
Bring up
we'll
some
throw.
stuff. You got stuff in the garage. I know Rhonda's going to say, get rid of this stuff. I know she, I can hear her yelling it.
And she'll say, just get up there and bring it to Chauncey. So we'll do that. So and I wanted to say this to you. We've known each other, like I said, probably close to 30. Yeah, 30 years. We have, and you have done more for my career.
Well,
I
thank
love you. I respect you. I consider you a very, very good friend. I think you're absolutely one of the best people in the industry that I've never got the opportunity to know. I look forward every time that we run into each other because you are truly not only one of the greats. I think you inspire people all the time and just let them start their day in a good fashion. And I think you do all of that and more. And I truly appreciate being your friend.
well, thank you very much. And being a kid from the inner city of Chicago, and I was inner than inner could ever be. And when you listen to the TV and they talk about Inglewood,
Oh
right?
boy,
Well,
holy cow! Yeah,
oh, Ted Koski's on. Thanks, Ted.
yeah.
And
There
but
he
I
is, right
mean,
there.
yeah, you don't have to live in the country to do what we do.
No,
There's an ending that I use on my radio show every week that goes, "We don't own the woods, the rain, the storm, the fish we're catching, the geese we're shooting, the deer we're chasing, you know, the creek or the ice we're falling through. We're borrowing it all from our children's children." Remember that.
yeah. And if you want to sum up his show, I am going to read this because this is one of my favorite things about a show. Chauncey Show is the latest information from outdoor experts in fishing, boating, camping, cooking, and
Napping in a
in a
hammock.
hammock. Amen. Hallelujah. God bless you, my good friend. Thank you for joining us. I'm glad we finally got this done, and I look forward. I'll see you next weekend.
Love you and all your listeners.
See you, buddy.
Bye bye.
Been wanting to do that for a long time, and I'm glad that he finally had the chance to come on tonight. So thank you, my good friend. And hey, if you're I will tell you all this. When he says he's got that live at Paul's Hot Dogs and Pizza, I'll be there. It is wonderful. The food is phenomenal. Paul hosts a great event. It's packed in there. So now I promised you that we are going to talk about the new product. And this is from our Bass Academy line. And this is a bait that I actually helped design. It is for bladed jigs. It is called a hitchhiker. Okay, so it can be fished vertical or horizontal on the back of a bladed jig. I'm going to show you a video here in just a minute. The cool thing is, any of you who like to fish bladed jigs as much as I do, when you're fishing them around laydowns, they have a tendency to roll over and hang up. That is the reason that we built this a little bit more horizontal, because when you thread it on the bait, as you bring it over wood, the lure has less of a chance of rolling over. However, the action of the tail, either vertical or horizontal, is exactly the same. I'm going to show you a little video of that. This is the hitchhiker in action. Check this out. Now, that's a hitchhiker. Now, not only can you use it as a bladed jig trailer, this is also going to be a great drop shot bait either way. If you just nose hook it, when you give slack to the drop shot, this bait will glide. If you hook it vertically like this, that tail will wag back and forth. It's a great bait for that. It's also a great spinner bait trailer tonight. So if you go to Lure Parts Online, if you go to lurepartsonline.com, put in this code JC Outdoors 10. Okay, put that code in, you'll get 10% off. Now, our friends over at Cast King, who just won in their product for their new net over at iCast over there in their Brutus net. If you go to castking.com, put in the code JC52AFF. That is your code. Use it as much as you want. Use it anytime you want. Give it to friends. That is 20% off anything and everything at castking.com. What I'm telling you is you don't have to pay retail again. Our friends at Mudhole, the new rod series, Jim Crowley's signature series rod kits are selling well. I have all of you to thank for that. I was told that as soon as I walked into iCast into the Foundation Outdoors booth, which is at Mudhole. The kits are selling really good. We have a couple more comments on here. Ted Koski said, "Hey, it was so nice seeing you and Chauncey." Well, Ted, it's always nice to hear from you. Thank you. Hey, Tim, Denmark. Tim, great to see you at iCast, man. That was awesome. And just sent our buddy Steve an email this morning, see if we can get him on the show. Looking forward to that. Thank you for that introduction. Always good to see you, Tim. That was great. Chris McVeigh, great show tonight. Great message. Nature heals. Amen. There you go, Chris. Is our friends over at Dakota Lithium. So there you go. Put in that code SlickFish10. You get 10% off lithium batteries. Got to see all my friends over at Dakota Lithium at iCast this past week. That was great. There's a new episode coming out on Wired to Fish TV next week. So all kinds of stuff. I'm busy and I love doing what I get to do. And I love you all being in the audience, being part of it. As I always tell you, I'm so thankful for all of you. God bless you. Thank you for watching. You mean the world to me. It means the world to me that you watch this show and my other one. Thank you so very much. May God bless all of you with a great rest of the week. Until next time. See you later.